Slam poetry.
He doesn't care if it's perfect.
It's time to slam now.
It's the biggest poem I've got inside of me.
She was a thief. You run
To love means to love a haunted house.
Yelling, angry.
Blood-black nothingness began to spin.
Specific point of view on
To
things.
this day, I hate pork chops.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Tell you what, there's nothing better after a long, hard day of work than getting home and sitting down and doing a big, fat podcast. That's what I think anyway. My name's Andrew. This is I Think, Therefore I Slam. Maybe I should think a little bit more before I speak. Then I might have a better intro, but whatever. It's going in. It's going in the books. We are in episode 10, double digits. So thanks for sticking around. It's going to be a good one. I got a good feeling about this one because I'm here with Jordan Woolfe. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. I've had a lot of sort of conversations like this online. I've been talking to a lot of people who do streaming, a lot of, sort of online activity. I've never sat down and pre-recorded something like this before. So it's quite a fun thing to do. Already, it's been like 20 seconds. And the thing of you saying of like thinking before speaking, I can speak a lot faster than I think.
Oh, I think we all can.
And that makes for an amazing thing. People like it. People are entertained by it. It's good. That fast flow is what makes things like this work so well.
Absolutely. And people are memeing you right now. People are clipping up
absolutely.
things and it's happening. You can't stop it.
Yeah, no, Twitch clips are not very forgiving. They're good at it's entertainment. It's all for the sake of making someone happy. And if you can do that, then you're achieving it. You're doing the goal.
I saw a clip recently of Ludwig. He was on stream and he was commenting on some other streamers saying, I just find their content kind of generic or whatever. While he was doing that on his stream, he logged into their stream and saw them watching him on his stream.
Oh, that's amazing.
With the delay, there's a bit of a delay from the live recording to the
just
stream.
create
So he
this,
was able to tell
vortex.
that they were like watching him and memeing him as it happened.
That's incredible. And it's good to see that as well. Like it's just recently there was this video by Mr. Beast, which had 50 popular content creators with the combined total of 1 billion subscribers between them.
That's crazy.
And, it was insane. And it was interesting seeing because these are content creators who may not have always met each other, but have commented on each other's work, and some that have no idea what each other do. So to see those people in a room and then see their reactions after that it's a very interesting thing of how many different types of content there are around the world, but also how easy it is to get them all into one place, even if they have nothing in common.
Oh, yeah.
It is so incredible what you can achieve just by hitting record on a camera, talking about your feelings, and then putting it online.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
It's an empathy machine and it's as well as a hate machine.
Absolutely.
Let's try and keep it on the latter.
Yeah. It's
the former, rather.
The former, yeah. No, we don't want to end up on any thread forums or anything, whatever those words mean.
Speaking of content creation, you've created some content for today's show.
Sure have.
Did you want to talk about your first slam piece?
Yes. I've always been a bit tricky with the idea of how I structure my poetry, because when I first did it, it was a means to getting out my expressions. And then as I've worked on it, it's developed a beautiful structure. My most recent piece, which I wrote after getting asked so I've been going to therapy for the last couple of months and it's been doing wonders.
Love it.
Shorter version of it is that I realized that I had been spending a lot of time trying to help and perfect others and not really working out what I'm doing with life and who I am and what I want to do. So I wrote this about just that question of the therapist going, who are you? What kind of person are you? And what kind of person do you want to be? You ask me who I am. And it's not that the answer isn't something I know. It's just the answer, I think I'm yours and I am who I am to make you feel better about who you are, isn't the right one. When you're gone, and the next, not the best, but just different enough from the rest that I'll ignore the fuel light that says I need more from love to run and keep going until the engine stops. I'm nobody when I'm with you. It's not from a lack of being human. It's the crushing wave of water that washes out my uniqueness in me to always try and fix you. I'll tell you you're perfect just how you are, but my time is spent correcting the errors that make you feel incomplete. A catch-22. The catch being you and I aren't the ones for each other. We're just good at being the person who needs someone and the person who is someone, but I'm no one when I'm with you. I build you up and run out of bricks when it comes to my turn, and it's not your fault because no one taught you how to build. You're still learning. The shocks of every relationship's end when I spend my time trying to love. The O's could have been avoided, not with you, but with I. I'd have spent my time trying to live. I'm the one who will live, learn to love, to have and to hold, but not for too long, because when I hold on to you, even after you're gone, my hands are full. And I can't even wipe the sweat from my brow when I'm asked that awkward question. Who am I? The clicks.
Clickety clack.
I love the clicks.
That's a good one, mate. I do
Thank you.
recall you sharing that one before. Now, I want to, if you're comfortable talking about it, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, you said that you've been doing therapy, which is awesome. I've done a lot of therapy myself, big fan. And you said you'd made this realization, this revelation that you'd been, did you say trying to rescue other people or?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of a rescuer thing. I'd easily say that I've spent a great deal of time focusing on the idea of securing love as if it's this very important need. It's right underneath food and water. Like you grow up with your two parents, and my parents aren't together now, but a very important part of that was I need to make sure that I've got that someone. I want to have that someone that in movies and TV shows. So very early on into high school, I was already in relationships and falling for people. Like I grew up a very emotional person, but what I discovered I was doing, and it took a lot of years to figure that out, was I was, as someone who naturally devoted a lot more time into paying attention to the mental aspect of things and the thinking and the feeling and how people process, I attracted the people and sought out the people who had unresolved problems in their life.
Wow.
And that wasn't as a way to particularly single out people who weren't strong. It was a nurturing need that was almost buried in the back of my head of, I have a bond with you and I care for you, and it is the top of my priority to make sure that you are happy, and I'm confident that I can give that to you by helping you through the things that make you struggle. Wow. And it's a very noble thing on paper, but what it would do is I would devote all of my time to this person in a relationship, the intimate levels, the caring levels, the fun levels, and I would do that to such a degree that by the end of the relationship, I'd realize that I'd almost sacrificed an opportunity to be more as a person beyond the person who knows how to help you. And when you're strong enough to help yourself, you don't always need someone to be devoting that time. And that was a pattern that I followed quite a lot until just a few months ago when I realized just how little I'd been taking care of myself and how I'd prioritized looking after people so much that I didn't allow people to look after me.
You can't give out of an empty cup. Like,
Oh,
I'm sure
no,
you
not
hear
at
this
all.
the time. So what are some ways you feel like, I don't know, do you feel like you're on a journey now where you're learning how to refill that cup?
Absolutely. A couple months ago when I first started, like I'd had people saying to me before, they're like, go see a counselor, go. I'd have good friends that I would constantly tell about these troubles and struggles I was having at home with friends, with loved ones. And it wasn't until this moment in life where I felt like I'd almost been hit at every angle with personal choices that had ended in, I feel almost at the stage where I could just burn every bridge and go meet new people and forget everything I had beforehand. And when I went into that therapy office and I was like, it's time to do it, that was working through, I suppose, a connection with someone I knew that had began this domino effect of realizing just how much I'd sacrificed of my own enjoyment because I'd developed an enjoyment for other people's happiness. And when those people were no longer around, there was this emptiness of, I've gotten exactly what I wanted and I still feel like it's not enough.
Do you feel like you know like what your values are through this experience?
Yeah, I'd say I've still got a lot of time to go, but I realize how much I do value using my expression to obviously express, but also to almost offer a voice to people who aren't yet ready to share how they feel. Like a lot of that is like with poetry, when I'll read out and I'll have someone who may not entirely understand what the message is I was trying to get across with my own feelings, but something that they were going through, they'll go, I felt a connection to that. I felt almost a similarity to those feelings. And it's just so hard to talk about it. I'm like, you just did the hard thing of having that conversation. And that development for them just comes from hearing a person share how they feel. It doesn't come from a script. It doesn't come from some thing that took a great amount of time to achieve. It was just people sharing who they are and what they're going through.
Love it. Now, you and I met through Littlefoot and Company, which is a fantastic open mic event.
It's just incredible there. Such a welcoming environment.
Yeah, in southeast Melbourne. And it's been a stomping ground for a couple of the guests that I've had on. Tell me the origin story. Tell me how you got started in sharing spoken word stuff.
It was an experience so I've been going to Littlefoot for about a year and a half, and it was the first open mic place I've ever been to. Like, with growing up, I didn't have relatives who were like, oh, sharing your feelings is for wimps. It's not that they weren't supporting, it was more they were very, get through the troubles, put your head into it. So there wasn't really time to have that expression. I had writing goals and things I do, but it was fictional writing, nice little 8-year project of mine that I'm never going to finish. But I got asked by Jude a little while ago, Jude Grisan, to be like, hey, I've got this event that I'm going to. These people are amazing. I've been there for years. You should come. You should hear what people have to say, share if you feel comfortable. And I started going there for a few months with him and with some other people I got to know at that event. I made some very good friends there. And it wasn't until, I suppose, a conflicting moment in my life where it was like, I don't feel like I have anyone to talk these feeling outs with. So I'm going to write it down and I'm going to speak it into a microphone and I'm going to let the words just fade into the air for a little bit. Yeah, I was sharing more and more as I went on, and around that time I was working in a factory with my family or with my dad, and we had a lot of conflicting points, him and I. So rather than do what I've seen most people do, which is be a normal human being and be prepared with their writing, I would always write on the day. If I knew there was an event, I'd be like, okay, what am I feeling right now? Because next week I'm not going to be feeling this. The situation will change. My feelings will develop. They chop and change very quickly. So what would happen is I would always write on the day about whatever issue was pressing me, and I would almost give a narrative to those feelings. It became this place to express my feelings, to get it out there, to hear myself physically say something that I had spent time looking at and adjusting, not because it had to be perfect, but because it was not the way I was feeling until I had correctly worded and correctly put it down. And it was almost a way to look back and go, this is how my life was, and this is where I'm at now. And these poems have become this incredible journey. All I have to do is look at my previous writing, and that is a detailed narrative of who I was and who I've become, and how that person is still the very same person. It's just, I've developed.
Yeah, I love it. And you said that you were using that very kind of raw emotional material on the day to write whatever. I've seen you get up on stage and basically free verse and improvise these things before, which is not something that a lot of slam poets do. There's often a lot of preparation. It was cool to see someone try that. Is that something you still do?
Oh, absolutely. Because of the streaming I do and a lot of the types of ways I speak to people, like even something as simple as the director mode on Snapchat, which is just you can record a video, but you can walk to another room and continue filming, and it cuts to that part. So I've always been so interested in that form of media and that form of sharing, but because I am a very unorganized person, that ability to freestyle that sort of thing almost became, I'll admit it became a bit of a blessing in disguise, because it was that thing of me not being prepared almost became, this proves that on the spot you can handle these things very well, and I can go up and be like, okay, I know how I feel and I can refine my thoughts enough to keep a steady flow up. One of the more fun things being, I find that if I do ever lose my place, I don't often go quiet. I just can fill in the words until I found my footing again, which helps a lot. The very first slam poetry event I ever entered, like the proper, I suppose you could call it a competitive environment, I had a piece that I had where I was reading it off the notes in my phone, and I'd attempted to scroll, but I'd long pressed and it had selected and deleted what I was working on. And I was like, I just deleted my poem, and I said it out loud, and then was like, you know what? I know enough of this. I've rehearsed this a little bit. It was the only thing I'd pre-written and pre-read, and I kept going. And when I'd spoken to people afterwards, they were like, oh, I thought that was a part of it. I thought you meant to do that. And I realized I'm like the way that I present and that almost organized chaos, almost like I've cleaned up a hurricane room, became how I would express. I could very quickly get those feelings out because those feelings were spontaneous. They were on the day. They're always they hit you really hard. And when I read that out, I almost have it as that way of telling myself as an assurance that you feel this way. It was that nice confirmation of this is coming out on the spot.
And you said you've been doing this 18 months. And for me, like I can really see like the growth in your work. The piece that you just shared is so interesting to me. And so there's so much good stuff in there to chew on. So do you feel yourself improving and getting more confident, that kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. So what I wanted to do was take those feelings, put them down and try to become, especially because of other writing tasks I have or writing projects I have, I wanted to improve my structure because I have the ideas. I've got the clay there that hasn't been molded yet, and I needed to become better at giving it a consistent flow and finding what do I read in best. I can come off as a calm person, and that's a nice thing I can read in, but I wanted to add in wordplay. I wanted to add in things that inspired me. I'd listen to an AJI album and they give this incredible, it almost just lightly smacks you on the way by, but it keeps running away. So you go, well, that was a really good like wordplay they used. Hang on, we're on the second verse now. Oh no. And that would go back and that would stick with you. And I would find that in music a lot. I'd listen to a song when I'm feeling something and it wasn't like I was going, my life is connected to this song. It was, this is a very beautiful way of using 2 seconds worth of words that the people who appreciate it, they're going to go back. They're going to keep going back. They're going to think about that. And they're going to think about it in a way that makes them go, I really appreciate how that simple little placement can say so much.
You are quite active on Twitch as well. So how does that compare to spoken word? Is it in the same kind of ballpark?
No, it is different? A completely different ballpark. So when I read out on stage, as I said, I call it almost the tone I have now, which is it's slow, it's calm. I can speed up when I'm talking. I know I talk way too fast for my own good at times. When I stream on Twitch, I almost feel like I'm running a game show. I'm loud, I'm shouty, I say what's on my mind, and it is always just something completely ridiculous. Like it's good. I've always been very good at bringing people together in terms of friend groups, in terms of environments where I suppose you've got the people who are a bit quieter who require that hand to them to be like, hey, come hang out with us.
The extrovert to
the extrovert. Them, oh, absolutely. Yeah. I just have this collection of adopted children who are all around my age or older. And what I find happens with them is I'll play games with them or they'll interact with me. This is parenting. Like one of the silliest things I ever did on my Twitch, which was quite recent, is when you're streaming, once you hit a certain milestone, you get something called channel points, which the easiest way to explain channel points is a free currency that you obtain by watching a person's streams or their live videos. And as it builds up, the person who is actually streaming can select their own rewards that you can redeem.
Yeah.
For example, the one I've got is after you're watching for about, I'd say half an hour to an hour, you've racked up enough points that you can select a sound effect from the many sound effects I've got on my board, and it will actually play it on the live stream for myself and everyone else to hear.
Yeah.
So I've got things like about 10 seconds of Funky Town. I've got noises relating to the game I play Dead by Daylight, which is designed to throw me off because I'm like, hang on, I heard this noise, but this event didn't trigger. They love messing with me so much. But I added a jump scare. And why I thought I'd do this to myself was awful. Whoops. It's loud, it's terrible. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it 4 times the amount of points as normal sound effects. It won't get used that much. It does.
It's just a sound. It's not a visual.
It's just a sound and it plays. And the thing is, because I run 2 screens, I don't get a warning. So it'll just happen. It's a very big interactive element, especially because, absolutely. And because I'm not streaming to a big platform, like I've got a little over 300 followers. It's a very good following, but I've got about 8 to 10 devoted people who are frequently coming in and seeing what I'm doing. So it almost feels like a little community where the people who are at home just doing nothing with their time and they're like, hey, I want to talk to people, but I don't know how, or I'm not exactly feeling jumping in a call, they can load up their phone and be like, cool, we can all enjoy this content. And even if they don't understand the game, they're there to watch me get freaked out by things and say stupid shit when I think about it. And it's great. Like, we have an entire almost message wall dedicated to quotes that have come from things that I say on the spot in game, and almost every single one of them is just, without context, this gold mine of what am I reading? And people love it. They love it so much.
Yeah.
I love to entertain. I love to laugh with people. I love to play games, tell jokes. It's a very natural flowing thing that I've been doing for as long as I can remember, even when I was young. And the people at Spoken Word, while they are seeing that fun side and that fun personality, they are able to see the journey of, while I was that fun person and still am that fun person, what areas of my life molded and shaped that personality, and what difficult things and what fun things and what loving things led to this point that have helped take this soulless baby and then make a thinking, feeling human that does things in particular ways and says certain things and like certain things. No matter what I'm feeling at any given moment, I have a place to voice that and a place to feel that.
I'm just thinking about a soulless baby and thinking of like just a really evil baby right now.
Incredibly evil baby. The baby's born and their first instinct is to cry. You haven't even experienced the things of life that will make you want to cry, and you already get it. It's like, you babies are smart. Shout out babies. Like,
what's up, you cool baby?
yeah, exactly. You know?
I've got some questions about Twitch. Firstly,
Yes,
is one of
yes.
these custom things like custom emojis?
Yes.
Do
so
you
that
have
is a thing.
PogChamp, or is that banned
No.
now?
Oh, I have no idea. So if you've got the subscription to Twitch, which is an incredibly cheap purchase, you can use like emotes and pictures from anyone's server, from anyone's thing. I do have a little like avatar of my own that I created forever ago, which is like this little fella in a suit who's like all lightning themed. Like, I've got everything storm themed on my Twitch, which makes it, I love it so much. But my emotes that you can have are just that little character with, I think one of them, he's got heart eyes, one of them, he looks shocked. There's this, one of them's just holding a gun. And there's one in particular, which I can only pair to this horrible SpongeBob meme, where he's got the most detailed, grotesque, long-nosed face where he just looks fed up. And if you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I went and did the work, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever drawn, but I drew my character like that, with this like obnoxiously rounded face and a big nose and just this awful facial expression. And that is one of the things you can unlock. You can use these emojis. You can completely customize your stream. You can be interactive. You can be artistic. You can even VTubers are like incredible. They're ones where, rather than using, like, I use a face cam for my streams, but there are people that will create full-on rigs of 3D avatars that are designed to move with the motion of their head and body and open their mouth when the person's speaking. So it's like you're watching a 3D character interact with you.
I've seen this. It's odd. Sorry, I shouldn't say odd. I'm just saying that there's a large variety of content. Whatever you're looking for, whether it's in pods or streamers, there's so much out there. You just talked about all different ways that people can manipulate your sound system or make you drop an item. That stuff's just going to become more and more. It's going to be like, oh, you can make them, I don't know, feel pain for like half a second.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm frightened
I feel
for
like
that.
Black Mirror is probably cooking up something about this if it hasn't done so already.
They probably have already. The thing with it is, again, the VTubers specifically, it's been around for a long time, but this technology is always improving. It's such a fascinating world that I'm glad I had the chance to get into. And even if I never take it beyond anything more than a hobby, it's something that taught me how to video edit, how to add certain sounds in, how to increase, like, it's the streaming and the games have given me an absolute love for crisp sound. When I'm listening to music, when I'm listening to game soundtracks, it has to sound good. It has to sound bassy. I'm sure you've heard the term broken humor be tossed around so much, where it's, we laugh at everything
Brain
now.
rot.
And brain rot. And the thing is, we always make fun of it. We're always like, oh, well, we laugh at such simple things. But it's like, how amazing is it that one of the best emotions that you can feel by watching something can be so easy? One of the videos I used to nearly come to tears on was a piece of bread falling over. It was that simple. And I'm like,
why am I laughing? You're just
Exactly.
describing it.
And it's like, you know, we've almost evolved into a point where we're not always surprised. We can watch things and be like, oh, I know what's going to happen. And how great is it that you can watch something and know what's going to happen and you still get that good feeling from it? We're people that don't have to be kept in the dark to have a good time. We can know what's happening and we can be surprised. The internet's a crazy place. The internet's got a lot of horrible things, but it's also such a beautiful place where people have come into it with the simple thing of, can I blank? And someone somewhere in the world has said, absolutely. And even if 50 people have said, no, you're crazy, they're like, yes, you can. And it's so easy now. You can talk to anyone. You can be anywhere. You can create nearly anything. We've got people who are spending thousands of dollars on courses, whereas you can go learn it in 5 minutes from someone on YouTube. We've become such an informational place and such a helpful place for the people who aren't necessarily in the position to access the things that they can now access just because they were in a place that allowed them to.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
It's almost like it was an anti-joke, the bread thing as well. Like your mind is primed for what a joke kind of is and how it's structured. And then it just hit you with the falling bread. And that in itself is kind of absurd and funny.
And then you develop the areas of the dark humor. Some people find it funny. We went from why did the chicken cross the road to watching the chicken get run over halfway across. And that shock was almost paired to people going, it's not always about this is funny. It's that thing of you can't say that, except you absolutely can. And it's this like nice wholesome chain that I come back to it with Twitch. There's no wrong steps. And I feel that a lot in the poetry environment. I feel like there's no, as long as you're being respectful of people, you go up onto this stage and you share something that doesn't have to have boundaries. They're not going to tell you, oh, you said it too slowly or you didn't use the right punctuation. You're going to go in there and you're going to share a story that you have that could be fictional. It could be nonfiction. It could be your life. It could be your best friend's life. And it creates these absolutely beautiful moments that you go to one of these events like Littlefoot and you're like, this is an incredible learning experience for me and a developing experience. And then you realize there are places all over the world that do exactly this with little switch ups. You can spend your whole life going to these places and sharing these things and writing your poems. And even if you're sharing the same story, you're never going to run out of words to say or words to hear.
Yeah, we're never going to run out of words to hear. No. Or say, rather. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the future of storytelling or what the future of humor might be. Like novelty is so strong. Is it Mark Rebellet or Rebelette or whatever that's on Twitch? And he's making songs up on the spot. He's like producing on his...
Oh my goodness.
The
freestyling is incredible.
And he's incredible. So it's not just... I feel like it used to be one thing. It used to be game streaming, which may not be to everyone's taste. That's fine. But there's so much more out there as well and people are using all kinds of tools to create stuff.
It's such an open market for people and it's now at the point where, you know, back when I was younger, I'd watch like YouTubers and I'd be like, whoa, I wish that I could be like them. Whereas now you've got a phone in your house. It's that easy. Yeah. Start recording. Go share what you have because we are past the point where we care about what people say negatively to the point where you can look at 10 negative comments saying, oh, give up, your thing's not good. And then you see that one person that's like, this was incredible. I love this so much. This made me laugh. This made me cry. I felt a connection to this. Or this is the funniest shit I've ever seen. And you look at that and you're like, this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this for me and I'm doing this for them, which in a weird almost parallel lines up exactly with that middle ground I want to get to of giving to people while also making sure I give to myself.
Yeah, that's important. And to do things for maybe their own reward as well.
Absolutely.
A few other things about Twitch. When you're playing Dead by Daylight, key question, do you have the California Girls mod on at all?
Oh, no. So that's actually, that's from another game. That's from Friday the 13th, which has a very similar. Okay. So Dead by Daylight's been around for about 8 years and there's been a lot of games that have followed the same.
No one's made the mod for Dead by Daylight?
So mods are a tricky one because they do border on if they are game changing, then it can go down as cheats.
Okay. And what could be more game changing than your character suddenly breaking out to dance to Katy Perry's biggest hit? Can I tell you my Twitch cringe story?
Oh, absolutely.
So I went to school with Loserfruit.
Really?
I did, yeah. Now, we weren't like close friends or whatever, but we were in the same class.
Right.
And I don't typically watch streamers, so I didn't know that she has gone on to become the second biggest female streamer in the world.
She's enormous, yeah.
She's got her own Fortnite skin, like she's killing it. And good for her. That kind of job didn't even exist when we were in high school. So really carved her own path or whatever. I was in a waiting room the other day and there was no one else in the waiting room and I was just staring at a wall and someone else walked into the building and I didn't mean to pry or anything, but I could hear their voice. I couldn't see their face. I was facing the wall, but I could hear their voice and they were telling the person at the desk about some things that were happening, informing them about something. And as they went on and explained their situation, I thought, wait a minute, I think I know who this person is. They mentioned that they were a streamer as well. And I was like, I definitely know who this is. So there's no one else in this building, but I turned around and I was like, I yelled their name, like their real name, if you like. And she turned to me and gave me the weirdest look because like we haven't seen each other in 13 years. So I wasn't expecting them to recognize me. But I just realized how disingenuous and how creepy and weird it was for me to yell that. So I immediately apologized and I said, I'm so sorry. I'll let you get back to what you're doing, and sat down feeling really stupid. I told this story to a mate of mine that night because I knew that he was a big fan of her stream or whatever. And they went on her stream the next day and said, oh, by the way, did you run into Andrew Rogerson the other day? And I was like, why would you do that? That just makes me seem even weirder. Like I'm trying to be less weird because I just said hi and thought, yeah, I know who this is thing because of they were describing their work or whatever. And yeah, they stitched me up that way. And apparently, yeah, Loser Fruit, she was very apologetic. She was just like, oh, I had other things on my mind, which is fine. Again, it was a pretty cringy moment, but it's funny when I guess Twitch and real life collide.
And the thing with that is, and that bleeds a lot into just any form of popularity, is the thing with meeting people who you consider either fans or people who know you is it is someone that you may not know at all who knows everything about you. It's almost like walking into
parasocial.
It's like going to your home with amnesia. Everyone knows all these details about you and you're like, I'm sorry, who are you? Do I know you? And you have to get used to that of just knowing that it's not that you don't have privacy, it's that people are genuinely happy to see you. Hey, I know you. I've got good memories of you. And they're like, oh no, I don't know you at all.
Yeah. Oh, it must be so weird. And I was very apologetic in the moment because I realized that it was completely, just not the right behavior in the moment.
How fortunate are we that we don't deal with the raids and things like that happen in the US where...
So true.
I'm sure it's happened, but it's nowhere near as common.
I want to revisit something that you said throughout this very enjoyable little tangent here. You said, you were talking about positive and negative comments, and you were saying that we're at the stage now where you can push through that. You can push through the 10 comments that talk
absolutely.
about negativity and look at the positive things. I reckon that's not necessarily everyone's deal. So how do you deal with, I don't know, trolls or people who just want to have a go?
I mean, a few years ago, I was awful at it. So I didn't have the best time growing up in high school. I had a lot of people that would poke fun. And with the way I wasn't exactly wired to see the joke. I didn't, I'd have so many jokes about things which you'd go, oh, I'm getting bullied, when really it was just kids being kids. Whereas now I get to that point where I can laugh about it. And I know how to combat this to avoid these awkward situations. I did go through my problems with close family members who, of course, were the top of the list in terms of the people I'd listened to who had very negative feedback. And it wasn't because they were trying to do something negative. It was because they were trying to encourage in their own way, and it never came across that way. I'm holding off on things I want to do because people I care about don't understand the passion in it. I like to dress up quite nicely and quite formally, and as much as they're not going, oh, that's a bad thing. They're like, why are you wearing a blazer to like an outing? And it's like, because I want to. And I got better at that thing of being like, I'm going to make sure that I live for myself and I choose when I do and don't want to listen to those criticizing comments, because trolling is a different experience, but criticism isn't always a negative thing. It's sometimes, in a way, a form of trying to offer your opinion to someone in the hopes of helping them, in the hopes of giving them some sort of constructive feedback. And I made sure to get to become good at basically dividing those two types of criticism, the types that were constructive and the types that were just people saying things because they can say it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good approach. At some point, you've got to have a filter, and whether the filter is just do not read the comments, that's the classic filter. If you've got a team, someone else handles that because, there is something unnatural about performing to millions and millions of people or what have you. That's not a number of relationships that you can realistically sustain. So it's interesting for people who do have these creative personas that can reach people in all corners of the globe, how they deal with that and how it affects different people.
And I suppose a good part of that is putting up the strong front because, it'll be the last thing I say on streaming, but like when I've got my statistics up, it tells me how many people are watching. You could be on such a good roll. You could be laughing. You could be doing well. You're doing good in your game or whatever it is that you're live streaming. But as soon as you see that number cut from 20 to 15, you're like, 5 people have clicked off. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, it's immediate.
And that could just be 5 people who have been called to dinner. We are so good at assuming that we are the reason that something has happened. In certain environments, you can expect that. It's not that you can't let it affect you. You think of the biggest streamers where you lose 100 viewers all at once. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you've opened up an environment for people where they can come and go as they please.
Yes.
And that's what they're going to do.
Yes.
And it really is nothing beyond that.
But that negativity bias will tell you. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, this is me. What am I doing wrong? That second guessing.
Yeah,
So
that joke wasn't funny. Like, and it's such a quick, destructive thing to do that has no place being there.
Yeah, I guess at any point, and it could be anything, but once there's a metric, an audience gathers and you can hear the applause or the lack thereof, or you get the grade, or you're somehow compared to others fairly or unfairly. Like we just love ranking things, don't we? We love
absolutely.
We love a good list.
This was my best writing. This was my worst writing. This outfit looked incredible today, but my shoes didn't match the right color, so it wasn't a good outfit. But 8 people today were like, hey, I really like what you've done with your outfit and your colors. I do costume creation for some of the conventions I go to, and I try to get as much accuracy as I can. And I almost have to remind myself, if I don't have the exact accuracy, someone is still going to see that and be like, that is incredible. If the purpose of what you are doing is to share with people, even if that's like the secondary purpose, you have to be good at reminding yourself these people are listening to you and these people are observing you, and they're not doing it in a way with clipboards. They're not penalizing you every time you do something wrong. It's not a competition. It's not all you're doing is you're showing people what you have to offer. We're not stupid people. We don't stick around in areas we don't want to be in, and we don't watch things we don't want to watch because we have so many options now. It's a very safe, secure feeling of these people are here because they want to be here, because they can be anywhere in the world and they've chosen to be watching and experiencing you.
And maybe, like, I'm sure we've all hate watched something as well. Like, maybe we all need to wake up and be like, is there something that I'm engaging with, whether it be media or whatever, that I actually hate, right? Because getting angry or triggered or whatever word you want to put to it has its own magnetism. Maybe we need to get better at realizing what are those things, and let's have a go at disengaging from them. I remember watching Fringe. Oh boy, you are young. Okay, yes, Fringe, a show called Fringe.
It does sound familiar. Wait, what's it about?
It's kind of like the X-Files, right?
Oh,
Anyway, I got to the last season and I was watching it on my computer, and I was still living at home, and I think my dad came in and I explained like how frustrated I was at like this character making this choice. And he looked at me and he's just like, why are you watching this then if you're just getting annoyed? And I was like, that is a good point. And I just stopped there. Five episodes short of the finale.
Yeah, it's so simple. And the thing is like there are the people who are like, oh no, I need to complete this. And then there are the others who are like, you know what, I don't want it. I'm going to leave it alone. And I've done that before. I've done it with so many different shows and areas of being like, it's, you know, I could be spending my time in something that's going to make me happy. And, you know, if I'm like swearing out at my phone going, oh my God, you're an idiot, I don't like you. Like, it occupies so much space in my head, and I already take up so much with silly random things. We do need to get better as people at doing that. We can move to better places. we don't always have to be consuming something. We can appreciate silence every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, please. Some of
And
that.
it's like, where did that go? Silence is always there. Silence is always there when something isn't, but there's everything everywhere all the time. And we've almost been training our brains to always be thinking about something and being in a place. Even podcasts, we do that. We cut out the silences because we want to try and get through that nice flow and constantly be listening, even if it's a background noise. If it's not noise, it's static.
Do you think there's a Twitch stream or a podcast that is literally just like silence and black screen?
It's funny you say that. There are streamers who will just turn on their camera and point it at their bed and go to sleep. And that is the content. And people will go and watch that. And this is simple. These people might be stalkers, but I suppose it's a healthy way of watching someone sleep with them choosing to do it. Let's leave them there and jot down their usernames just in case. But apart from that,
Click the report button.
yeah, click the report button. But we do it all the time. There are people that can enjoy that silence. This beautiful quote I heard from someone, it is, you can throw as many darts as you want at a photo of someone's face, but remember you printed the photo when you put it there. And it's this nice little thing of how much time people will devote into you even if they don't like you. And it's like I've formed a weird connection with you, even if it's built on hatred, even if it's built on the way that you don't like how my voice cracks every 5 seconds. And it's this strange thing of we're always connecting with people in some way, shape or form. And I love exploring that in writing, in entertainment, in nearly every aspect of what I do in my life. Even when I'm trying to pursue a connection with someone as a friend, I love that experience with going, we're all people, but we all feel different ways.
Have you seen those videos as well where it's not fully silence, but it's like 1 hour of silence with random intervals
Occasionally
of like, Mr.
broken
Worldwide,
out. Yeah.
or like someone farting.
Yeah, the Gordon Ramsay noise from Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, or the I'm a gnome.
Yeah, no, exactly.
We're really jumping to the deep end of just like
We are.
absurd internet kid humor.
And I love it
here,
so
aren't we?
much.
Yeah.
There's no deadline on the things that you want to do so long as you keep those opportunities open.
And you can try things. Do you
Of
know what I
course.
mean? We think that we have to have some fully formed, polished thing. Even with this podcast, it was an idea that was more or less formed 5-6 months before I just said, let's do it, because sometimes you just get stuck in the planning and you get stuck in the talking about the thing. I can be definitely guilty of talking about something before doing anything. That phrase about you can throw as many darts as a person's picture, but you print it out, you put it up. We give up our power to people so much.
Oh,
and I
absolutely.
understand that this is complicated, but like we all start off as so dependent and as kids. So we don't have a lot of power. We are very reliant on other people. Okay. And sometimes that works out great and sometimes that works out not so great. But it's almost like we stay in that place, that kind of childlike place of giving up your power to other people. Do you know what I mean? So,
Oh, yeah, we really do. I see it a lot with like something you mentioned before about the impacts that people can have on popular icons. I had a friend of mine who I'm not in contact with anymore, but she was obsessed with Harry Styles. She cried once in class because Harry Styles didn't wear like a dress to a gala. And it's like, this person who is just out there living their life, who has no idea who you are, has so much impact on your emotions.
I thought you were going to say she was crying because like he just wasn't there in the room.
No. It was like such a small thing of like how their lives can have so much emotion of ours, even if it's not necessarily a warranted place to have that emotion. As a streamer who has a big following or a celebrity or a singer, you have a responsibility to responsibly share your opinions with these people. Like we've seen it in recent news where singers have commented on politics or world events in places where it's, you do have to remember that although we are in a time where you can say a lot of things, people are always listening. And the people who are listening to you might not be, they don't always know it's a joke. They don't always know the line. And you have to be so careful these days because it's not that you're protecting people's feelings. You're not. If people don't like you, they're going to go somewhere else. It's that you need to be careful what you are doing and how you are acting around impressionable minds, because when people are looking for role models and they aren't present in person, they'll go to the internet because that's where everyone goes. And you imagine someone young, they find you, they like what you have to say, they think you're smart, they think you're wise, and they'll start to listen to you and they'll start to trust you. And you have to be so careful with that trust, because you are essentially, even if you're just making music, you are a person who has taken upon the responsibility of expressing with people and guiding them.
Yeah. And you're accountable for what you do, which is hard when it's not in person. Like, we know that we lose, or we can lose, part of our empathy when we get behind a keyboard or whatever. I really like what you said about learning from each other. There are ideas out there that are disingenuous. Let's learn to critique the ideas. Let's not make personal attacks. Do you know what I mean? There's stuff that it's not quite the time or place to speak to yet that are happening in kind of the wider Melbourne slam thing, where we're butting our heads against this, where it's like, hey, can we not be like monstrous to each other? Do you know what I mean? I know it's easy. I know if you're passionate about something that you feel like if someone doesn't share that they are somehow in the way of the greatest good that you feel everything should be oriented towards.
Oh, absolutely.
But the world is a big place, and it's a big place that's gotten smaller quicker. And so we're all feeling these tensions of like, what is the etiquette of non-in-person communication, and what is the potential and what are the dangers, and just like better literacy. Not everything you read on the internet is going to be true. I think my nephew is pretty young and I think he believes that at the moment, but he's got to learn. He's got to learn that there's flaws and there's people who aren't being accountable to what they do, and there are people probably watching you sleep if you turn on your webcam.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is really a thing where you have to make sure that you're giving that thought to it. It's I suppose a lot of places online do forget that foresight of, we really do need to remember that at the end of the day, the world is such a big place with so many things, and not everything has to be perfect. Because when we have everything we want, we have nothing to work towards. So those people who go into those places and they're almost trying to perfect things that in the grand scheme they don't necessarily want to begin with. It's just they've got a voice where they can say, oh, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, no, you're an idiot. And then by the end of it, you've got people who are unhappy. And then because everyone wants their 10 minutes of fame, other people will see that and they'll jump in on it. And all of a sudden, we are very curious creatures. And when we see exclamation points and when we see flashing red, we're like, oh, I need to know what that is. So we look at it and we're like, oh, A said this to B and B is wrong because A is correct. And then someone else says it and it's like, there is such a forgetfulness that if you really think about it, you can type in something into your phone and just go watch a piece of bread fall over. And then you'll be okay.
Mr. Worldwide.
Exactly. You don't have to always be knowing what Taylor Swift is doing. We're always moving on to a new story. So I really do believe that, especially as I do look into the opportunity or the possibility that I could gain a bit more traction online and have more people listening to what I have to say. And not all of those people share the same ideologies that I do and the same opinions. It's very important to me that in any environment where people are listening, that I'm quite a bad victim of not always doing this, but making sure that what I'm saying is what I truly believe. Because if I'm saying something that I don't believe to people who are listening to me speak and in that moment not listening to anyone else, then I'm wasting my breath.
Do you share any of your poetry on your Twitch?
No, not specifically in my live streams. I've shared it to people who have been curious about my writing. I have no problem with sharing that. The piece that I read out at the start is like my proudest piece of writing, so I've been sharing that a lot more, as well as some other things of mine that I've worked on. I think I got to that point recently of, at first, I was sharing at Littlefoot because that was the place to do it, and then I realized if I am this deep thinking, feeling person that I believe I can be, then I want to share this with people who are here to see what kind of a person I am.
Do you think you'll take a break from interneting in November, considering the kind of political shit show that's probably about to hit us from the other end of the world?
I suppose it depends. What I do online has a very low impact from world events.
Are you sure?
Currently, yes. I try to keep my nose out of politics. However, with the problem of that being, I do tend to not research them. And it wasn't until very recently where I was like, we like to laugh about things. We like to go, oh, silly presidents overseas. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, wow, this could have a world impact, and this could be something where the internet goes down, or where you start to see these movies where I'm not a big believer in the end of times. I'm not a believer in apocalypses or anything. We look at an apocalypse and we're like, oh, the sky fell or zombies came out. And it's like, no, an apocalypse for us could be that we saw it last week. Machines went down and the world went crazy because we've become so comfortable in these places that a lot of people don't know what to do, myself included. I don't know what I'd do without the internet. It's a thing of when I lose that platform to share on, or if I step away from that platform, I am still sharing the same things because I have the people I know in person who I write with, who I speak with. So as much as I don't think that the actual content of my life will change in what I write and what I share, it's entirely possible that if events do start taking place from these things around the world, that it could be a good decision to step back.
Yeah. And I'm not necessarily talking like World War III. It's more that like I'm planning, and maybe I should start now, to just stay off Reddit for a while, because it's just going to be, I feel like there's just going to be a lot of negativity about the future in the next little bit. So you got to watch out for that.
Yeah, I try not to get too involved in that. Like Twitter or X, like I have an account. I think I created my Twitter account because there was this like social media page that was like, yo, you guys want to enter this giveaway for a free computer? Follow us on Twitter. And I'm like, I guess I have a Twitter account now. I don't post, I don't share, I rarely ever go on there.
It truly is the best and worst of humanity.
It really is,
and it probably will continue to be. It used to be the Wild West, and now we're moving into, I don't know, capitalism online. It's been that way for a while. So it'd be interesting to see what it's like again in 10 years. Maybe it'll be saved somehow. I don't know.
Might be. And the thing with the internet is it has so much power, and at the same time it has no power, because if you have a lot of people who are willing to listen, you can say anything. You can convince people to be mad, but you can also realize that at the end of the day, when someone's telling you you have to be angry, you can just say no and turn off the phone. The internet has as much power as you're willing to hand over to it.
There you go. There's that giving up your power again, which sounds to me like you're almost like pattern of growth. We started this conversation talking about you'd identified that you'd given up a lot of your power, and now you're kind of taking that back and being like, I don't have control over everything, but I do have control over how I respond to these things around me, whether I engage with them. That was so cool.
It was.
Talk about a deep dive. It didn't used to be that you would need to have a stance or an opinion on something that was happening on the other side of the world. Again, I know that can sound very naive, and I know that can sound very permissive of evil things that get done. I'm just saying that's new. That, again, like the internet, we are just not used to this. We are not used to so much data, so much connectivity, so much the thing happening over there, which has nothing to do with me, is now in front of my eyeballs, and it's amazing or it's horrible, and off we go. Yeah. Again, getting over involved in things that you don't have control over. Like, it's the same thing, the locus of control. Can you get lost in that? Can you get lost in the ideology of something that's happening that doesn't really have something to do with you? Tend your own garden in a way. Make your own bed.
Exactly.
Make your bed, okay? You got to be a lobster.
Exactly.
You got to be a lobster.
You know, people say that a lot. It's like, you have an amazing lawn, and it's like, well, there's those two people. The first person who drives past and they're like, well, that's a great house there, but the house next to them isn't taking care of themselves. And then there's that other person of going, that one's taking care of themselves. You're not comparing the two people, because what do they have in common? They're standing next to each other. That's it. It's important, because if everyone takes care of themselves, then it will be a lot easier to take care of each other. Enjoy the silence. Speak when you have something to say. Share with people. Listen to people when they have something to say. But don't be afraid to be in a room where nothing is being said. There is nothing wrong with a moment where no one has anything to say, because when they find something to talk about, they're going to share it, and they're going to try to make that positive change or that negative change. And until then, surround yourself with the thoughts that you You have control over the things that are important. Don't think about what's going to happen in 5 years unless there is some part of you that deems it important that the next 5 years are going to be very important. It's that nice mix of, and my thoughts are a mess. I'm young. I've got so many different impressionable things, even though I'm at that point in life where I've picked and choosed who I want to listen to and how much power I want to give to my family and to my friends and to my loved ones. I'm also still very impressionable, and it is so easy for me to have a firm belief and hear something and go, hang on, I was wrong, and that's okay. I don't need to be constantly sharing my opinions on a situation, because sometimes I like to just watch it and understand it, and in my own little quiet area go, I understand this a bit better now.
For some reason, when you mentioned your age, I felt like just telling you to start investing or something. So
I do need to do that.
I think it's time for another piece, my friend.
Yes. As the key turns and the engine vibrates, you'll read aloud in your head. You'll narrate your life as if it weren't your own. You'll remember that you drove past her street on your way home. You wonder how she is. The fights at home when you came back late, though to drive down that street and stay for hours with her was worth the strain of home's morning judging glare, because you got to be with her. Every fight you ever had, the ways you'd tear apart each other at the house, tear apart each word he says just to get to get the point across that you're sick of trying to win, for then you just wanted them to lose. You'll admire every red light as it offers seconds to feel like minutes upon hours of peace, but you'll drive when it goes green. You'll tell yourself tomorrow is the day you don't stop at the drive-thru, for you want to save more money and eat less. You'll be proud. Today's paper bag will be shamefully thrown away in the morning when you can face the pattern you know is continued. Maybe tomorrow you'll be a little stronger. After 20 minutes pass of the car being idle, you'll realize it was too easy to sit in the darkness of your car seat. The sounds of an occupied house will wait until you're ready. You'll never leave home. Without them, who will stop you from being alone? It's been 2 months since you drove by her street. You knew it was time to stop. She's a page in your book, but you've already read that chapter. You'll hear him snore and forgive his brute comments, for you love him and he loves you. The peace and quiet at home will serve to keep you loving. You'll enjoy that time of flavor, salts, sweets and meats from McDonald's, for you love the way it reminds you of your youth. And as you remember the things you once were, you won't smile, though you'll feel peace. For the things that once drove your life like plot points, like chapters in a book, they will now and forever will remain unwritten stories.
Being in the car is such an interesting transitional space. I was saying to Nick last episode that it's often the point that is so automatic and you kind of let your thoughts go. All kinds of cool things can come to mind. So creativity at large, let's chat about it. Do you have a certain approach to how you put together your work or any practices that have helped you?
Absolutely. I have from different areas, and I'll use 3 examples. The examples being a creative project of mine from years ago, which is a fictional world, a bit like a little Marvel cinematic universe, you could call it, of little sketches that I do when I was 11. And I'd be like, I want to draw myself a character. What superhero do I dream of being when I look out the car window when my parents are driving? And I wanted to make my own character, and I wanted to make it quirky. You want to be a cool standing on 2 legs wolf, or you want to be a slime creature, or an archery expert who has X-ray vision? Let's throw all of the ideas at the wall and see what sticks, except I've secretly mixed PVA glue into everything and it all sticks because I'm an 11-year-old child who thinks everything is amazing. And as I got older, I would refine these stories and I would give personality to these people. And I now have years of story that I've created with this of fictional writing and of people and emotions in my writing process. All of these things stem from inspiration, from people I watched growing up. I mentioned before how I have examples in my poetry writing from music I hear where, whether it be a funny wordplay or this really deep line. Lewis Capaldi, who had this incredible journey into music, his first album skyrocketed. He was such a deep thinking guy, and he wasn't this stunning model. He was just a guy who had feelings, and people were like, I get it.
Yeah.
And I drew a lot of inspiration from that with my writing. For creative purposes, I drew a lot of inspiration from superhero movies and TV shows, and more or less the idea of pairing characters to people I knew and not just taking the best parts of them, giving them complex feelings, because we are complex beings. We romanticize these ideas on TV where it's a perfect world. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to make something that is, it could be just only slightly different from the next superhero movie, but it's something where people can go into it and go, this feels human, this feels real. And I think a lot of that with my feelings towards poetry, with my feelings towards writing, streaming, to put it down to one simple theme, I'm always striving to get that human emotion and to remind people that we're doing actions based off how we feel. It's one of the most important things that we gauge our lives off. And to see representation of that in media, even if it's subtle, what that's doing is it's not only giving you an enjoyable media to consume, but it is subtly giving you those messages of it's okay to have complex thoughts. It's okay to look at a burning house and not straight away know exactly how you're going to run in and backflip over the burning chair and save the old lady who can't get out, because we don't always have those answers. And that's almost what I wanted to do with that fictional writing. I am perfectly imperfect. I live off of the idea that I always have room to improve. And it's not that I'm never happy with how I am. It's that I'm always improving means that I'm always going to meet new people and have new experiences, because there is always someone out there to suit a personality or to suit a hobby or a talent or a lifestyle. And when you're not necessarily changing yourself with what you do, but how you do it, you're helping yourself find those places and find, whether it's a crowd of 1 million people that you're shouting to in a stadium, or a little community center where you're just chatting to 5 random people from the neighborhood. It's finding that area, no matter how big or small, that you fit into, because that's where you're going to feel the love. That is the safe space that you can return to while you're out in the big world doing your thing. If you don't have a good relationship at home, it's not that you're done for. It's not that you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. And that was something I mentioned in my piece of, you'll never leave home, because who's going to stop you from being alone if there's no one there?
You're your own home, like wherever you go.
Exactly.
You are, yeah.
And you surround yourself with the people who are loving to you and the person you are. Even if they don't always agree with what you do or what you believe, they are there with you for the same purpose of everyone else. Even if you're not pursuing them, you never give up on your dreams. They just go on a hiatus. And that's okay, because you're living such a long life where so much can happen in a day that we forget just how much time we have.
Someone published an article about how supposedly there's talks about building a Disneyland in like Cranbourne.
Frankston.
And
Yes.
I'm like, where is it going to go?
Yeah, and that as well. It's
I don't believe it for a minute.
for putting it in Frankston, which this might go under my thing of judging a bit too quickly, but when I think of Frankston, I don't really think of Mickey Mouse.
Oh, he went there, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look at Frankston and I'm like, Frankston's got their beach. Frankston's got their shops. It's like, you want to do a Disneyland, put it in somewhere that's quiet with a bunch of room, because otherwise, you're going to go on the freeway on the way to like another town and just go, whoa, there's a roller coaster and like a massive train and a bunch of happy families and diabetes. It's incredible just like how they're like, yeah, we're going to do that and we're going to blow everyone's mind. And it's like, I think the mind blowing is that you wanted to do that to begin with.
Again, chuck it up in like Whittlesea or something near the water park up there. That's where I think it would be good. Although that is hard to get to, but I don't know. I would be interested to see what happens. Never say never. Disney are so powerful that they'll probably just do whatever needs to be done. They'll pay off whoever needs to be paid off to make it happen.
I suppose the bulk of my confusion that I never really gave much thought to was when I go to Melbourne as someone who's never been there before, and I'm like, I want to go see Disneyland. There are 20 other suburbs that I think of before I think of getting to Frankston.
Yeah.
Because it's like, where is it?
And Cranbourne is almost as far from Melbourne as their own airport.
Absolutely. No, it is. And it's like, it's insane.
What other kind of blockages or obstacles do you find in creativity? We talk a lot about like getting through cringe or having a perfectionist mindset or just not backing yourself. Is there anything in that part?
For me, it would be patience and it would be motivation, because I had a lot of times where I'm like, okay, I do Twitch streaming is on the spot. I don't have to edit it. But once I finish a Twitch stream, I can take that 3 hours of stream that I did and I can edit it down into a 20-minute video and put it on YouTube. But I'm a bit lazy with it. I really am. When I was very early into video editing, for my fictional writing, I made this video where it was basically a news broadcast that is taken over by this underground organization that's we're going to expose like all of these people that are trying to stay hidden. And I made this completely by myself with my own voices, with programs that could create voices with softwares. It's one of the few things I'll take a bit of petty pride in. It's that I made it without AI, because back then that wasn't as much of a thing. But I made this video and it only went for about 2 minutes. And by the time I had the file, I was like, whoa, you are 21 gigabytes of storage. How did I do that? And from there, I was like, I convinced myself that I knew how to do a lot, to the point where I convinced myself I didn't need to learn more. And I need to learn more. I need to get better at it. I need to be open to the possibility that what I'm producing can be better, but that doesn't mean that it can't be enjoyed. And for that reason, I'll be like, I'm going to go out and film a bunch of things with my friends, but I'll prepare to film it before I've even started writing the story. And it's unlike my poetry, I can't wing that sort of thing. I need to become better at writing it down. I have an upcoming project where I was like, okay, look, I can spend 5 minutes getting voice lines from people that are 10 seconds each. And if I don't end up doing this and going through with this, I haven't really wasted my time. But I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to overshare it online. I'm not going to over-promote it, because if I don't have it ready and I don't finish it, it's just going to add to that list of promises I've made going, like, I'm going to make a cool video online. And it's like, you never did it. I'm very impatient when it comes to, I want it to be done now. But at the same time, I'm awful at motivating myself of, if you want it done next week, you need to start today.
What's next for you? You have told me that you're working on this new kind of project, like a horror story in a way?
So I'm not going to say too much about this one, because it's a need to know, because when you know what is happening in this thing you're watching, especially in the analog horror area, there's always this element of the unknown, and that's what makes it such an engaging watch. So if you get into this and you're like, oh, I know exactly what's happening, you're probably not going to have a good time, because these analog horrors, to generalize them, is you're often watching what looks like old footage of an old documentary where there's no music, there's no voices, you're just reading off of a silent page. You can hear the static of the TV, you can hear that little whirring noise in your headphones when there's no sound. And it taps into the idea of things like the backrooms, where it's familiar places that are changed enough to be eerie to you. And you become, even if all of these videos combined are maybe 20 minutes of footage, no longer than an episode of a TV show, you watch these 20 minutes and if the story is done correctly, and if the media that you're putting into this, it doesn't have to be original, but it's not just the same thing that you've seen 50 times before, you'll start to pick up on clues and you'll start to see details, and you'll think, there is something I can learn about this. And it's not like it's giving you something new. It is purely media for you to consume. And I do want to take my time with it, and I want to perfect this story, because I don't want to just go off the idea of, oh, I'm going to jump scare a person. I want this project to tap into the areas that I have not yet shared with my online presence, which is, I do want to be the person that creates fictional worlds. I do want to share these stories, these videos, these movies, books, comics, any of these things. And if I do pull that off, and if I do dedicate to it and I do get it out, then I'm going to have that there. And I'm going to go, I did this. What's next for me? Do I want to take a few years before I do something else? Do I want to make short films? Do I want this to be a hobby, or do I want to make my career about this? It's exploring the things that I want to do, and I want to make a media that you might not like. You might see it and you'll go, this is weird, this isn't my style, I'm not feeling it. And the people who can get something from that and watch that 20 minutes and go, this is such an engaging story and I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to enjoy it, it's there for them and it's there for me. And it's to prove that I can put this much passion into a small little project, because that's what's going to lead to that passion devoting into all the other areas that I've chosen to put so much time into.
You might even hear a familiar voice on this little project maybe one day when it's out there.
No, you've got one of the nicer ones. I know a variety of people online and in person that it's like, if I want an American, I can get an American voice. If I want someone from Australia, it's there. And you film these things and you're like, it looks ridiculous. And then you edit the layers on and you're like, wow.
Jordan, if people want to find some of your work or follow your Twitch stream or just find out more about you, where should they head?
You can head to any platform online, really. I run off Instagram, Discord, Snapchat. If you want to get in contact with me, Instagram is the best place to do it. If you want to purely watch as an audience member, twitch.tv/thestorm. The actual user for that on any platform you choose to look for is 2 lowercase L's, the storm, another 2 lowercase L's. People always see them and go, are they lines? Are they eyes? I've nearly made it my tagline. They are lowercase L's. Go on there. Go to Twitch if you want to see me game. Go to Instagram if you want to see the creepy costumes I've made and the too many suit jackets I own. If you look on the internet, there's a chance I'm there. You just got to type in the name and remember the little L's. No one does.
Remember the L's. He's everywhere. Jordan Woolfe. He's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Jordan Woolfe, thank you for joining us. You got one more piece you're going to leave us with?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually going to go through one of my older pieces. I always feel like this is a newer piece, but this was from last year when situations were a lot different with me and my friends, with my home, and I went through the stages of being angry and upset and going, there is a positive place in here that I'm not seeing. And this one's called Getting Older. I'm getting older. Those days I dream of years ago are coming to pass. A loving girlfriend, studying at art school. My friends, they're getting older too. They're getting partners, building their lives. Some say soon will look like the groups in the movies that have the sun shining on a day when nothing can go wrong. I'm getting older, learning from mistakes, learning how to be better. It's getting easier to listen and heal from pain. But now when someone asks why I don't smile as much as everyone else, it's just how I grew up doesn't quite cut it. I'm not sad. I'm just getting older. But I'm growing, that's right, and my friends are growing too. Growing apart, but you get what I mean, right? It's just a part of maturing is what everyone says. Losing people is just getting older. I'm making money, getting gifts around the holidays. Finally, mum and dad can have those fancy nooks and crannies they've always wanted. But money goes fast and it comes in slow, and parents no longer get mad when you mess up. They just get disappointed. God, I'm getting older. It's always funny when I think about it. Every year I have unanswered questions, but I still somehow manage to be a know-it-all. Doing the right thing doesn't always mean having a happy ending. That future is scary, but I'm not scared. I'm getting older.
Just like we all are.
I'm a little happy to realize that I think you've heard that, to have nearly known where the ending was. It's good.
There we go. We're on a wavelength.
We're on a wavelength.
Jordan Woolfe, it's been a fascinating conversation. I feel like you've had so much interesting stuff to share, so much interesting wisdom and perspective. And I'm really looking forward to whatever your next iteration as an artist and creator and all-around interesting, good person is. Yeah, I think we all are.
I appreciate that a lot. It's been an absolute delight. I'll never get tired of sharing things like this and seeing what people have to share.
Good words to end with. Thanks so much, Jordan, for coming on again.
All right, thank you.
Weetabix hands, what's that all about?